Hello, everyone, and welcome to this masterclass with Nate, also known as Protoculture. Hey, Nate.
Hey, man. What's up? How you guys doing?
Nice one, man. Really excited to have you on this masterclass. I haven't said this before, but you're definitely one of the musicians from the psytrance scene that I respect the most. I think you've made some incredible music. So when I reached out to you to see if you wanted to do this masterclass and you said yes, I was super stoked. Really, really glad to have you on this one.
Cool, man. Yeah, I mean, the psytrance stuff has evolved into different styles over the years. But
I've heard it. Yeah, I've seen that. So we're going to chat about that a little bit today.
So yeah, I do this quite often to get these sounds coming out of Diva a lot bigger, using the stack index. And I realize I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but as I see something that I think is going to be valuable to you guys, I'll just point it out. In terms of sound design with Diva, you can really get things to fill out the whole stereo space using this trick. And we'll just initialize this quickly. Okay, so you start off with a saw wave like this. That's fine. What you want to do is you're going to just duplicate, essentially turning the unison on, which just doubles up the voices. Now, obviously, you could detune things a little bit using the modification, or the trimmers, sorry, over here. You start playing around with these, you get more sort of drift. Which is nice, but what really kind of spreads stuff out is to actually use a stack index modifier when you are working on sounds like this. So if you bring those over to the panning modifier, yeah. So typically, like that's the LFO. If you use the stack index, you can actually pan one voice left and one voice right, and you end up with something like this. Yeah, super wide that is now. So essentially, if you're using 2, you're going to get a voice on the left and a voice on the right. If you go to 3, for example, you can get 1 in the middle and 2 on the...
That makes a huge difference.
Just get really, really big sounds out of that. So that's...
Can you tell us a little bit, like, kind of how, you started out? I know you studied, for example, sound engineering, which I thought was very interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about your beginnings?
Yeah, I mean, I studied audio engineering straight after school, which is cool. It teaches you some fundamentals, but I mean, in this line of work as well, I quickly realized that, studying audio engineering, it becomes irrelevant, very, very quickly. So it's really just about, practicing and experience this game. But yeah, I did audio engineering and then went on to start Protoculture. I was actually initially writing breakbeats, like new school break stuff, and met up with the guys from Nano Records at college, and then started producing psytrance. They actually just said to me, "Look, we can't sell breakbeats. It wasn't big in South Africa." So they're like, "Yeah, write some psytrance," which is how I got started. And
that's hilarious, man. That's funny. So you met Reagan and the guys there. Like very early on, then I guess you were in your early 20s.
Yeah. I was at school with, at college with Reagan's brother, Gareth. So it was Commercial Hippies.
Okay.
And they were just starting the label at the time. So I was pretty much the sort of beginning of Nano Records I was involved with. We had an EP called Emergence, which was the first compilation they put out, which did really, really well. I think that was the year that they did Summer Thraki. And that kind of blew up, and then went on to do my first album, which was, I think it's Dilations, was it? The one with Circadian, sorry.
Yeah, Circadians. So you started out with psytrance kind of as a challenge from the Nano guys. That's interesting to hear, because my impression is that you're one of the people, I think, that is best at melody and harmony, which of course is, psytrance is a fantastic frame to have that in. But since then, you've also moved now more into a space. I mean, I've seen some of your releases, I think, on Armada Records. So it's more like in a, I'm going to call it commercial trance, not in any kind of derivative way, but more in like a broader scene of trance music, right?
Yeah, I've got such a varied background when it comes to music. It's especially electronic music. I think my sort of initial big influences back when I first started listening to dance music was more like techno background, actually. Like I was big into sort of new school breaks like Crystal Method, Prodigy, stuff like Hybrid as well, but always this sort of more melodic stuff. Obviously classic trance stuff as well, like some of my favorite tunes are some of those sort of classic 90s trance tracks, like nice. Binary Refinery, 1998, that kind of thing. But also some of the old Platypus stuff. I was massively into progressive stuff, like Orbital was a huge influence for me as well, Sasha and Digweed as well. So, I've got this very varied background. I found the psytrance stuff. I think the psytrance I gravitated towards just for the sort of technical nature of it, and then kind of got sucked into the culture as well for the longest time.
But
for me, I'm chronic ADHD, so my sort of ability to focus on one thing for too long is not very good, and I lose interest in. From a musical perspective, I need something challenging, and I just kind of hit a point with the psytrance where it was just too much about tweaks and too many rules.
Interesting. Okay, that's very interesting. I can relate very much to what you're saying. I didn't spend that much time in the psytrance scene, but at a certain point, it felt a bit constricted, and also in my case, it was just too hectic. It was just way too fast and too many gnarly, like Nordlied or whatever FM sound kind of things crunching through everything became the norm, and I didn't enjoy it so much anymore.
Look, I mean, it's not a dig at psytrance at all. I think some of the music is still fantastic, but it's one of those scenes where the music is so ingrained in the culture, and when that happens, it becomes harder to change the music. You couldn't just strip out that psytrance bass line. It was so ingrained in the style and the culture that you couldn't play other stuff at festivals, and I kind of was longing for the ability to kind of do different stuff. I mean, I ran into the same problem as well after I started doing sort of more commercial trance stuff. There definitely is more scope to kind of play around. But I'm kind of more comfortable at the moment writing progressive music. Just from a production standpoint, there's more space in the music. And there's very little, if you listen to progressive house, especially at the moment, the only thing that kind of really defines it is the arrangement. I mean, you'll find stuff that's predominantly acoustic sources. Some of it's like very 80s sounding, some of it's deep, some of it's psychedelic, some of it's uplifting. There's no real guideline that says that you have to make progressive house with this kind of sound set, which is why it's so appealing to me. And I think the stuff that I'm doing now it's maybe not even progressive house. It's just more slow, I guess, and it's a completely new kind of thing that I've started putting together. It's influenced from psychedelic stuff. I mean, the one that we'll look at a track today as well, which I think has got some more psychedelic influence, but it's also quite driving and but also has a simple arrangement that a lot of the progressive stuff has. So.
Oh, fantastic! Well, I'm super looking forward to this. Cool, amazing. So I think one playthrough of the track beginning to end will be great, just for context. And then let's have some lunch.
Cool. All right, let's get started.